Welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. And I want to thank our producer, Aaron Burngard, for throwing this together. We are on allthingscomedy.com, Omni Studio, iTunes, and YouTube. And if you want to check out sponsor on thevalleyapparel.com, you go to the website, get 20% off anything you get there using my promo code Comic Rant. And normally we talk about Premier League, and this has a lot to do with Premier League. And we've had some of the guests on here before. We've talked documentaries, just anything football. And one of the most ultimate things in football has happened over the past few days. Basically, a coup was attempted by 12 of the most popular teams in world football. And so we came here to discuss the coup and the Super League, but now we're here to celebrate its demise, maybe. I don't know how everybody feels about it, but today a lot of people feel victorious, mainly the fans. Sunday and Monday was Infinity Wars. Florentino Perez came in, snapped his fingers, and destroyed football history, just like in an Avenger movie. And today, the fans and supporters and ex-players grabbed the glove back and snapped that shit back on. And the Super League is pretty much dead. So I guess I'm going to go around in the order that everybody appears on my screen just to get your feelings on what did you first think when the Super League was announced. So Marco Lavilla, one of the directors and writers of Black and White Stripes, a Juventus story. You are up first.
Okay, no pressure. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, fam. And thanks everybody for being on. I love all you guys.
I think everybody might be in the same boat. I don't know if everybody is or not, but it was like a lot of information to process in a short amount of time. You know, the information was, I think some professionals even were throwing out misinformation. There was misdirection. There was all kinds of stuff going on. I think what I understood was there was a massive fight between the big clubs and UEFA. So the fans are like collateral and got mixed up and embroiled in the entire thing. But, you know, as a fan, and I talked to a lot of fans today in Madrid. I talked to fans in the United States, New York, Italy. And it's probably the same for a lot of you guys. We don't, at this point with the Champions League, which was, by the way, when it came out, a Super League.
Right.
I'm not going to blow Mauto's point, which is coming up because they gave me earlier, but there's another league also he's going to talk about. But Champions League was exactly like a Super League, except UEFA controls it. And then, so there's what happens is, as a fan, I don't care where Juventus plays, so to speak. I mean, I want to see Juventus play. I watch their off-season games. I watch their soccer practices, anything that gets broadcast live, replays, I'll watch everything. And as long as I get to see my team play. And my team is my team because it was my father's team. So it's a cultural thing, for whatever reason, everybody's linked to their team, kind of like a family. So if they were going to build this other league that would be parallel to Champions League and not controlled by UEFA and FIFA, it might be good, it might not be good. But I'm also for a free market also. I don't like that whole monopoly FIFA and UEFA have on their grip on all of soccer. I think that also corrupts. We saw the FIFA scandal not too long ago. So it's if somebody wants to try something new outside of FIFA or whatever, and they have the means to do it, it might not be good. It might be good, but they should be allowed to try it. I don't think FIFA decides who kicks a ball and who doesn't kick a ball, or UEFA decides who kicks a ball and doesn't kick a ball. That part of it bothers me. So I know Andrea Agnelli personally because of the movie Juventus. We interviewed him many times. We know other members of the Agnelli family, John Elkann, Lapo Elkann. So the main owners of Juventus know them very well. First of all, they're all huge fans of the team. So whether they're wealthy or
I
not.
thought you were going to say huge fans of the podcast, but go ahead.
They can't get enough. They can't get enough. They probably tuned in right now. They're commenting. But they're huge. And you get a guy like, so let's focus on Andrea Agnelli. Andrea Agnelli does not have to be the president of Juventus right now. His great-grandfather started Fiat, that owns all these car companies all the way to Ferrari. And his grandfather, Eduardo Agnelli, bought Juventus when it was a university club and built the first stadium in the country in Italy, Eduardo Agnelli, in 1923. And then his father was the son of the guy who bought the team originally. And Andrea Agnelli is Umberto's son. So he's like direct lineage of this team. But these guys were wealthy. Andrea's grandfather was a trust fund kid already. So he doesn't have to be there. He wants to be there. Andrea fought to be president of Juventus. There's a lot of competition in that family also, within the family. He's a fan. So he knows football very well. So for a lot of people saying, oh, the fans are being robbed and this and that and everything, Andrea Agnelli's a fan, a very tough one. And, to the core, to the point that he went all the way to become president of the club. And, he took over the year before they won 9 championships in a row. So this whole revolution, he's been spearheading it. And he's been talking about the Super League in the trades openly for years now. And I think the discussion had even probably begun before him. But I don't want to take all the time because there's so many guys on today. I'm just saying I wouldn't have minded to see this extra tournament as long as it doesn't affect the championship in Italy and the local leagues should stay the same. And it helps them balance their budgets because these teams, I think what happened was they're being forced, the biggest clubs are being forced to spend a shit ton of money to be competitive. And they can't recoup their money between the biggest sponsorship deals in the world, the league broadcast rights, the Champions League broadcast rights, all that stuff. They still can't balance their books. So I think they tried to find a way to say, look, let's do this league here. We're going to guarantee our books are balanced and we can keep competing in the other levels. And UEFA can't stop us and block us. However, apparently they have blocked them. I think it might be inevitable anyway. It might still happen at a later date if UEFA doesn't compensate. I also read that maybe UEFA is compensating because it's a $4 billion problem. UEFA might be compensating. I read somewhere, somebody told me today.
Paid them to get out.
Pay them not to do that league. If it's $4 billion from JP Morgan, well, then UEFA will give it to you and you don't have to do this league. I don't know. I think that might be the offer on the table. I'll leave it to the next person.
All right. So Mauro, and I hope I said it right, is my greatest.
You did.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
You know what?
I'm
going to take. I can go on too, for an hour on the subject. But what I want to do is because you're going to hear a lot of the same sided stuff because my brother just spoke. I'm curious to hear more what the other people have to say. But I'll ask one question. I'll just put the question out there to you guys because you guys are actually Premier League guys. How is the Super League in 2021 different than when they created the Premier League in 1992? That's the only question I have, and I'm asking in a curious way. So I want to know because I don't know. All I know about that is in 1888 the English League starts. In 1992 it turns into the Premier League, and the Premier League. The only thing they did that was kind of okay, which looks good, is they have the solidarity payment, which kicks down a little bit of money. Not everybody complains about the money that they kick down not being enough. That's all I know. Right. So I'll leave it at that because I can trust me.
You guys, it's hilarious because you guys are being very provocative. You are. I kind of like this is a funny topic because today changed what this podcast would have been.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I kind of, from texting with you guys, I kind of guess which side you were on and more of what Marco said and some of what Mauro said. Like you're kind of pulling back from your stance a little bit, but you
no.
But not really.
I don't want to eat up the airtime.
but
I don't want to get the airtime. It's different for Italian fans than British fans. Right. I'll tell you, I could talk about that after too, if you want, or now. But I figured you're going to hear a lot of the same thing that my brother said, so it's better to go around the room. Right.
So, Martin, could you answer that question about the difference in the Premier League? Because I can also ask you about SerieA. It wasn't always SerieA, right? Was it rebranded?
It was SerieA, but since the 60s. But it's it's a different league right now. Of course, it's in a big crisis as a league, and comparing to where it was in the 90s. But let me tell you this: it's a very sad day for football today. It's a very sad day, and I'll tell you why it's a sad day. Obviously, the Super League was a bad idea, but the way it all happened in the last 48 hours, now UEFA looks like the saviors of football, which is horrible.
Right.
Conclusion of that, because they're not. You want to hear it, like when you take all the propaganda, all the emotions out of the way, pretty much what we're gonna get is the Super League, but governed by UEFA. Pretty much the new Champions League is the Super League in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways it is, because the 75% of the teams will be guaranteed, and they cater to all the big teams. Here's what I want to say. 1992 was I would say the biggest change in the history of football, which impacted the future dramatically. It's the year when Champions League and Premier League started. And since then, UEFA and FIFA were more and more catering towards the big teams more and more. I remember in 1999 when Manchester United finished second in England and had to go all the way to Lodz to play in the Champions League qualification against LKS Lodz. I was at the game. David Beckham was there, in that by Polish hooligans, but it was kind of romantic. I remember Parma finished second and had to play Wisła Lodz in the Champions League qualifications. Now you have 4 teams from every league, and now those teams will be guaranteed that they will be always there. It's really nothing different, except that the clubs started to thinking we can make even more money. We don't need UEFA. Because we'll make all the money.
Martin, that's not true. Florentino Perez was trying to save football.
Exactly, but UEFA did somehow.
So I think they're trying to guarantee their money, right? Guarantee.
Exactly. So with UEFA, we have clubs all want the same thing, and they all are saying all those emotional statements just to pretty much pull fans into their vision. But the truth is, that's where we're heading anyway.
All right,
I agree.
Lee, what you got? What's the vibe?
Oh, it's a mess. I agree with what everyone's saying with that. Like, it doesn't sit well with me that UEFA and FIFA are being portrayed as like the white knights in all of this, because they have problems. But also, I think, people weren't really working to reform that. The Juventus chairman, Agnelli, he was on the executive committee for UEFA. Ed Woodward was part of the ECA as well, and they didn't really. They looked out for their own interest there as well, and then obviously they thought they could do more and get more money by going this route. And I think it's just the fact that they didn't even consult with their staff, with their players, with the fans, with anyone. It was just a cold-hearted boardroom decision.
Zoom,
I think,
Zoom.
Is what
cold-hearted board Zoom decision.
Board Zoom, yeah. And I think that's what just. Yeah, it was just sort of out of the blue. We're doing this, whether you like it or not. And obviously a lot of people have turned around and said, we don't like that. I think there was a lot of unanswered questions, such as what would happen to the leagues. Like if, the top 6 or if the 6 English clubs that were in it, if they finish in the top 6 of the Premier League, does the 7th place team go into the Champions League? How would this all work? It was all the logistics of it. And I think it was just very messy, the way it was announced, the way it was executed. Even their marketing materials were trash, which makes me think it might have just been a ploy to gain some further leverage over UEFA, because these guys, I've looked at their website and it's garbage. And even the logos and everything look like someone made it in 5 minutes on Microsoft Paint. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Totally.
I don't know if that smacks of the fact that they've not really put their heart into it, because they just wanted to do this to be disruptive, maybe. But yeah, it's a mess. And people say the creation of the Premier League was a money-based thing. The Premier League ran pretty much like a mafia. It's a money-making exercise, and the only thing that gives it credence in the eyes of English football fans is that it's open in terms of promotion, relegation, and things like that. You know, you can have a team like Blackpool get into the Premier League. You can have a team like Bournemouth, who being the 4th division.
But they had they were talking about. Sorry for interrupting. They were talking about like 5 teams would relegate up and down into the Super League. It was semi-open.
I know the UEFA, like the UEFA Champions League reformat was going to protect big teams as well, but I think it was just the fact that people were guaranteed to be in something. Again, didn't sit right with people. I know there would have been an entry requirement or an entry possibility for other teams as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there was enough information put out about it to try and explain it to people, which meant that people could turn on it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's more people involved that needed to be working with each other than just these clubs doing it all cloak and dagger in the dark and then coming out and saying we're doing this. Reform isn't a bad thing, but it's just the way it's been executed that I think has really pissed people off. And I don't think there would have been the reaction there's been if it was done in a more transparent and sort of cooperative way, I guess. But these people make their decisions and they're dealing with the repercussions now.
And Neil, you're not wearing anything Chelsea today. I put on a MLS shirt. I found a pink shirt, but I was like, let me wear the MLS shirt. But what you got, Neil? Chakravarty?
Yeah, I was ready to pack it in. So this is 1904 FC, the local San Diego.
Okay.
San Diego club that plays, actually owned by Aaron Hazard, Dembaba. But yeah,
San Diego club.
Yeah, they don't really play in the. I mean, it's not even the second division, but it's like
is it the one with Brendan Donovan in charge? That's the.
Yeah, Dembaba, Aaron Hazard, and there's a third guy who used to play with them back in France too. Lille, I forget his name. But anyways, just touch upon a few points that have been made here. Yeah, I have a very different take on this. So I think I'm more on the other spectrum where I believe what happened today was good and what happened in the last 2 days was, I didn't see any positives out of it. So
you didn't see any what?
I didn't see any positives in this proposed new format. So the thing about, I understand the fact that UEFA and FIFA, I mean, they're a bunch of corrupt individuals running the show there, right? So I get that. But I don't really think what has happened today is showing them in any good light either, because if you see the people who actually made the difference, there are a bunch of players yesterday who came out, made statements. There's Jurgen Klopp, managers, and Guardiola today making strong statements. And there were fans yesterday at Ellen Road, Liverpool fans, Leeds fans, and today at Stamford Bridge, because I think it could have happened yesterday too if it was a home game for Liverpool. But because I think today was the first home game for any of those big six clubs. So what happened today, what the Chelsea fans did today, and I saw a lot of other fans too from other clubs with boards, and they made it very clear that they were ready to shut it down. The team bus wouldn't go in, and there were already rumors that Chelsea and City, because they came in at the last minute, were already kind of like trying to backtrack. But this probably, you can keep making these moves online, Twitter, you can trend hashtags. You speak to United fans, they've tried, how many times has Glazers out been trended on Twitter? It happens every season, Nothing really happens unless you see boots on the ground, unless you see the real impact, you see those images of how passionate people are, willing to go towards what they feel on this thing. I don't really think people sitting in boardrooms and offices really feel the burn. So I don't think UEFA had anything to do with it. Maybe they gave them an out, financial out, but the trigger was pulled by people on the ground and people who we can actually see and hear. So I don't think for me, at least, I'm not giving UEFA and FIFA any credit, and that's definitely not the way I see it. And to come to why I felt, this is really bad. The Premier League happened in '92. All of that is fine, but they were still not moving away from the football pyramid. I was trying to think over the past few days, like, is there a single, and I've been following Chelsea since 1998. I actually couldn't think of a single player who I loved who hasn't benefited from the football pyramid outside of Chelsea, because all our greats, they spent, even if they were clubbed, like John Terry was from the academy, but he spent 2 seasons at Nottingham, and getting those formative years of experience that helps him in his career. So you can't just isolate yourself from the pyramid and go away, because that's just not the way. It's just not sustainable. It's a very short-sighted view from even a financial point of view. I understand money. I've been a fan of many sports where money is a big deal. You can make all the money Chelsea, as a Chelsea fan, we've benefited from having a very rich owner that has transformed the club. You can make money, but if you only think about just the next 5 years, even the money is going to dry out. So and the fact that a lot of clubs, Real Madrid, Barcelona, are in debt. They're not in debt because there's not enough money in football today. They're in debt because there are a bunch of incompetent fools who are running their clubs. They can't balance their books. There is a way to run a football club competently, even at the highest level, and make a lot of money. The fact that a few clubs are not able to do that, they latched onto this as a golden ticket to. But what's going to happen? You're going to pick them out of the hole, and within a few years, they're going to crawl back into it.
Yeah, because
what are you going to do then? Right?
I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't think I've heard. I understand Lee's point. Lee's point was super clear. The way they handled it lacked transition, lacked the proper diplomacy, lacked the proper negotiations, all of that. I agree with that. I don't see the difference between creating a Super League in 2021 than the Premier League in 1992, because the world is now at 7.8 billion people. And, things become, and the way the internet and the cell phones have changed the way the world functions and the way information flows. These are massive shifts. So I really don't see in anything I just heard a difference between, creating a Premier League and creating.
Can I just make one small point?
Go ahead.
So just a point on, for example, like like any of these clubs who are in the Premier League, it becomes pretty clear by December who's winning the league or who's even competing for the league, right? So that's half your season. Now, if there is no concept of moving up and down into the next level of the Champions League, and if it's just 12 clubs that are going to do it permanently, there's nothing to play for the next of the entire domestic season. So you're right now diluting 50% of just the top clubs, and imagine what's the cascade effect that has on the product as a whole.
So I misunderstood. I thought that the Super League did have like a slot for 5 teams to go up and down.
But those 12 teams stay there permanently. Actually, 15. If Bayern, PSG, and
I heard that it was still up for negotiation. I heard that it was nothing was set. Nothing.
See, here's the thing. That cannot be up for negotiation, because that's the core reason behind this move. These owners want financial guarantees. They don't like the uncertainty of one season being in the Champions League, the other season not being. Especially these American owners who are used to the American sporting codes where there's no promotion relegation, there's no up and down. You know what you're getting when you are the owner of that club. That's the core.
I was going to say something about the American sports. Yeah, the American sports are all.
You remove that. Yeah, you remove that. All of these, you don't even have to. Fans don't have to protest. Those owners will back out take out their forms themselves.
Well, let me just say something. Like, I'm trying to keep track of what I wanted to say about this whole thing. I feel like it's what happened was good, because the UEFA is not the greatest organization, and it needs to be fixed. This new plan of reorganizing the Champions League and another tournament after the Europa League is just too much football. And it's greed. They're also as greedy as the members of the Super League, but like Lee said, some of the members of UEFA are members of the 12 teams that wanted to form the Super League. I think it's a great day because now the fans who should have more of a voice, because this is a money move, right? And you need the fans to spend their money for you to make this profit that you want to make. And before, I feel like the fans were just being taken advantage of. But now they know that they have a voice. Like during Corona, England tried to charge £15 a game. So if you wanted to see your team play, you'd have to pay that money. And the fans didn't buy it, so they had to shut that down. That was training for this moment to know that, oh, we do have some say. And it's terrible when you grew up in a sport, there's a Bible to the sport that you grew up subscribing to, and somebody wants to rewrite it without even consulting you or giving you a choice in the matter. And so for the fans to just be able to just put their foot down, whether the league started or not, I would have hoped that they would have just put their foot down so that there's just, the whole thing needs even checks and balances. So that's what I like about what happened today and the teams pulling out because of everybody that spoke out to show that there is more of a check and balance system to football than rich people just originally thought, or like even Americans like who wanted just to change the sport of football to an American style system where you play a regular season and then there's a playoff system. So, but today I'm just happy for the fans putting their foot down and getting what they want. But now I don't think this should be over. There should be the straightening out, use their power to straighten out UEFA, and stop them from being corrupt.
Another thing as well was just the sort of the disjointed nature of it, in that like none of the German teams wanted anything to do with it. So it's like, right, so we're never going to see Bayern Munich versus Juventus again, or we're never going to see it like in a competitive nature. We might see it in a pre-season game, but games like that, like it was just, that's the beauty of the Champions League, is that you can get all these, you know, European giants against each other, right? And a sort of disjointed, fragmented version would have been bizarre as well. I know
no Germans didn't make any sense. No Germans, and no, I agree with that too. If it was going to be like a real European league, then it should be a real European league. I saw no Germans. That was the first weird flag.
Because the
but
teams are not.
It just doesn't add up. About, first of all, the fans. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm first and foremost, I'm a fan. Second, I don't work in football. I just got a chance to stick my nose in there deep for 10 years in one club, and I learned a lot. And I saw things happen. I was in the back office. I was in the front office. I was in the office while shit was going on. Like they were buying and selling players. I saw things with my own eyes. I got to see the inner workings, and it moves fast. So it's easy for us as fans to say they're doing a bad job. UEFA sucks. FIFA sucks. They're corrupt. But when you see how fast things move and how reactive that business is, just from a logistical point of view, you're trying to organize something, but things change like every second. I'm talking about like we would be like preparing for an interview or something in the offices of Juventus, and then a news flash would come on the air, and the entire office would be upside down because something happened, some transfer news or something. So it's like this. They have to change everything, or they lose 2 games. That's it. They change everything again. They win a few games, everything calms down.
Right.
Well, you had to see this, man. It's really
I believe you. But that's like
simple. It's not as simple as it looks.
But I understand that. But that's just like, maybe it's because I was raised in Jamaica where we like to calm down. It's like just like show business. I was talking to a friend about a show that he's trying to sell, and it's like he's writing, and then he pitches, and then everything speeds up, and then some people want to buy it, and then it slows down. There's this negotiate, and then it speeds up, and then you have to cast, and then the time that they gave, the way the show actually, by the time it gets on the air, the way everything is, the order of things and the amount of time that you give to certain things, like when there's casting, sometimes as I go on auditions, right, and they give me 1 day to audition or to put in a good audition for a major role. Now, somebody wrote that script for 2 years and took notes and made adjustments to it, and now, and this role is a major part of this whole thing working, and you give people 1 day to read it, learn it, and express it in a way that you need it to be done. So I think there's all these businesses all over the world that need to refigure how they operate. And then there's the cases where you can't refigure, that's just the way it is. But then you got to think about, that's what players have to deal with on the soccer field. Things change. Somebody gets sent off. Somebody gets a yellow. Somebody gets injured. Then you have to, and coaches have to make changes. But you have to do things in the right way to give yourself the best chance. And football is not giving itself or doing things in the right way to give itself the best chance to survive. And I also don't want to completely shit on UEFA, because they've done good things. So I want to acknowledge that. Like, Champions League is a great competition, and you can tell that most people agree with it. It's just that they do fuck up, but they have been good.
Yeah.
All right, let me
I'll say one thing about the fans. I personally don't think that the fans shut anything down today at all. I think, from, again, learning from the way it works from behind the scenes, I've seen some things, and I know that something must have shifted, economically or something. There's some backroom meetings that happens, because I know one thing about fans, because I'm one of them. We like to, what's best for our team, and we'll protest. But then at the end of the day, the majority is just going to go forward with their team no matter what. And we've seen this a million times. I don't think that the fans, I think they would have went right along with the Super League, protested a little bit, and then went right along with it. If Manchester would have wanted to stay in it, and all the teams stayed, if it made sense, they would have just went right along with it.
So you think they got bought out?
No, I agree with what Mauro is saying, but within that time, the clubs blinked.
It's suspicious.
No, I agree with what Mauro is saying, but within that time, the clubs blinked. There's a period where if you just let it go, the protests and the fans would have calmed down, but the volume was just so much and so unanimously against the tide that they blinked within that time. And I feel that's what happened. Like, if the fear was that they would just let it ride, and eventually it's your team, you will still tune in to watch, but it didn't get to there.
It's really rare in the UK.
Guys.
Hold on, Martin. You're next, Martin. Martin and his falling apart shirt is next, right after Lee.
I was going to say, like, it's really not common to see fans in the UK so united in a common sort of cause. Like, I've not seen people this mobilized to sort of make a stand against something in a long time. So that was something that told me a lot, that everyone, I couldn't find a single fan in this country who was not vehemently against it. Like I say, there were people outside the stadium at Ellen Road last night. There were people outside Stamford Bridge tonight. There were Liverpool fans putting up RIP Liverpool Football Club outside Anfield yesterday. The season ticket holders wanted to remove all the flags from the Kop. There were fans outside Old Trafford as well. I've not seen people really come together like that to just put their foot down and say, we don't like this. And I don't think the fans had the full say, but I think that sort of reaction does have an economic impact as well. Like, sponsors take note of that. Broadcasters, there were people, the fact that so many managers and players were against it as well. It was everything. It was the fact that it was fans, it was managers, it was players, it was ex-players. Even like Amazon Prime came out and said that they were against it as well. So you've got broadcasters saying that they want no part of it. So And I think that again comes back to my earlier fact about the fact that it was so cutthroat and so shady the way that it came about and was executed.
I agree with that.
Sorry, hold on a second. I used the example
true.
today. I used the example today of Amazon Prime being the Super League of Amazon. So it's funny that Amazon actually Prime came out and said something against it, because that's basically what it is. It's a special club.
That's what it is.
Amazon, I mean, when Amazon pretend to have morals over something, you know, it must be bad.
Hilarious. Martin, go ahead.
All right. I'm not being heard here like Polish things in the Champions League.
No, because you didn't wear a complete shirt on the show. you look down. Look down.
It's a protest. Here is the thing. I mean, with the German teams, I think that shows you something, because we mentioned the German teams were not in it, but that doesn't mean that we're not intrigued, that we're not interested. It means that the structure of German clubs is that 51% is owned by fans, and they had enough to say to stop that. If it was up for just the presidents, that would be probably a different story. But because of the structure, that's why Germany was first to crumble, and Germany didn't join the project, which tells you a little bit. You know, you have to look at who was the most interested by doing that league. Obviously, Florentino Perez, who was the innovator of the Galacticos. You know, he was always going in that direction in terms of his thinking about football. He always wanted to create like a super club, super team, super league. That's just the way he thinks, you know. So that's him. Then you have American owners who don't understand football. That's the truth. You know, they don't understand soccer, as they call it. For them, you know, if you don't have a closed league and you don't have a playoff system every year, that makes no sense. And I think that's the one side of the story. So you had those guys. You have billionaires. You have millionaires, right? Those people wanted to be part of their project so they can control. It's more about control the profit and profit margins even more.
I agree about that. It's all about control.
But I'll tell you one more thing. You hear a lot of players complaining today about the Super League, you know, well, we shouldn't join. As a matter of fact, and we didn't mention that on the podcast, he had Henderson from Liverpool. He was the head of a special secret meeting, and the players unanimously condemned the whole idea. But don't forget one thing, how the idea was structured of the Super League. The idea was to have a closed circuit. The idea was to implement the salary cap. And that's not something the players want to do. They don't want salary cap. They want to have free wages and make as much money as possible. When you put salary cap, listen, if there was no salary cap in the NBA, LeBron James would make $300 million and some 12th guy on the team would make $100,000, because that's the way it would be. But salary cap makes LeBron James collect $45 million maximum, right? Instead of $300 million. And the weakest player on the team makes $1 million instead of $50,000, right? If they implement salary cap, all those, you know, big name players, they would make less money. Messi would never make $350 million, which he can make potentially next summer if he signs as a free agent with someone. So that's my view.
Let me ask the brothers a question. What do you think about what the UEFA president said about Agnelli?
Chakravarty.
Yeah.
Chakravarty?
Yeah.
So, okay. First of all,
you guys are loyal.
I agree with Martin. First of all, I agree with what Martin said. I'm glad that he got a chance to say, because I'm here to learn. And I always like the idea of fans owning the team. And I was wondering why the German teams were out. That's where the flag went way up, was like the German teams, you know? So it's like, to me, that wasn't a European Super League without the Germans. Mm-hmm. So I figured, okay, this is not being done. And then Lee's point of saying, you know, it was just handled so poorly in terms of diplomacy, negotiations. Nobody's opinions were it was kind of happened. It was just so abrupt.
It was like a drunk text.
So, right. Almost. But I'll say
it was like, send, let's see what happens.
Andrea Agnelli is a super competitive guy. I mean, he will try to win anything with anyone, anytime. No matter, my exchanges with him, it was like, the whole family is very competitive. They're very tough. They're competitive. and they're smart, and they're highly educated. Like Andrea Agnelli's Oxford, graduate. He was educated in England, and I'm sure he loves the Premier League. I've never discussed it with him, but a lot of Italians love the Premier League, and we always look up to the Premier League as the best league, hands down. We love it. But Andrea Agnelli, when he has a conviction, it's because he's analytical, so he gathers data, and he's quite he's not quite finessed in the way he presents things sometimes. To him, like once he makes a decision, it makes sense. He's just presented like logically. So he logically did the math and said, okay, Super League makes sense because of X, Y, and Z. I've been looking at this data for years now. So besides balancing the books, when you have a world that's now 8 billion strong, you have more eyeballs, and everybody's like, you're making tons of money, The expenses also go up because even just marketing wise, we're in an attention economy. So an attention economy, you got to pay for those eyeballs. It actually costs a lot more money to penetrate and get people's attention. I mean, a lot. So you're getting a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo on the team, great. But Cristiano Ronaldo leaves. He leaves with his fans. Juventus' Instagram doubled when he came on board. But
it's hilarious.
Yeah, but he's bringing attention to the team, right? That's his power. Is he got the marketing down, and where he goes, they go, and so now you're stuck with team becomes dependent on them. So you pay for that. So everything you're paying for is not adding up. It's not adding up, and then. We didn't even discuss the fact that players are playing too many games. They're playing too many games. Physically speaking, they're going to have to it's going to end up, if it's not already, this I don't know about, but it's going to be like the Tour de France, where if you're not juicing, you can't play. You're going to have to be like a superhuman. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, that part there, where the player and the salary caps, I mean, I don't know who's against salary caps, if it's benefiting. Especially, 90% of the league are hardworking soccer players, right? Not stars. The stars are like this little bit at the top, and they're getting most of the money. So I agree with salary caps. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I like that.
Well, that's what I would say. I'd say ultimately, if we have what.
Go ahead.
I agree, but the star players will never go for it. That's why today they were the most vocal people against the whole thing. Because
it's not even the players. The agents would never go for a salary cap because they want to make.
Imagine Mio Raiola going for salary cap.
Oh my God, foaming at the mouth. He must have, who knows what he pulled today.
I think ultimately the fact that these clubs felt like they needed to make a Super League and they needed to do this, and there was that it happened. There's something wrong with UEFA or the Champions League. There needs to be an adjustment somewhere. Ultimately at their level, and we can't understand everything that they're talking about. I don't think we ever will, because there's a lot of shit that they talk about that we'll never know about.
Marco, but I think there's a lot of things wrong. There's stuff wrong with UEFA, and there's stuff wrong with the way teams are run financially. And
that's what I want to say.
So trying to create a Super League, like Neil was saying, doesn't fix that problem. People need to it's like when somebody is married 5 times and they keep looking for the right woman, and it's like, no, you need to go to a therapist and assess yourself.
But ultimately, I thought that league sounded very, very boring.
Right.
Like, these teams are going to play each other every year. Okay, well then, okay, whatever. It's like, it seems like friendly matches to me. So it's like, okay, there's this like little league here. And it would have brought a lot more focus to the country leagues, to the championships in every country, I think. Because it would have been like, okay, we're not watching Champions League anymore because they're not in that. So I'm going to see who wins in Italy, which is probably going to be one of those 3 teams anyway, which it has been for the last 80 years, as Andrea Agnelli pointed out today.
It's true, though. Guys,
what I wanted to say was the opposite.
60 years
hold on, Mauro.
Is 3 teams.
One second.
All right.
What I wanted to say was the other end of the scale. Instead of doing a Super League, what would be interesting, which is never going to happen, would be all the professional teams would have the same exact budget. There would be a budget cap per team,
everybody's equal, then I think we'd see some competition.
Then
I
how?
think we see a real thing.
Then
But
how
that would be
would,
that's like fantasy land. It'll never
how would
happen.
the Arab teams cheat? That's crazy. Like they have all this money that they're trying to funnel into their football teams. How would
Just
they?
like they cheated with the World Cup 2022, you know. That's how
got caught? Yeah, they got caught.
By the
So-
way, it's
But
funny.
guys, in Italy, Martin, in Italy, you guys, who knows the Italian league best here, besides Marco and me?
Maybe it's
I've
YouTube.
I've
I mean, you
I've,
guys, I don't know if you
I've
follow
been
this,
I've
but-
been there a lot. And
Dabble.
I've read quite a few like decent books on it as well about the
Okay.
history.
38 championships, Juventus, 18 Inter, 18 Milan. That's 80 championships.
Mhm.
80. It's really boring. Juventus just won, like 9 straight.
Yeah, aren't you
I
guys
mean-
bored?
Very bored.
Not this
for
season.
us,
So this
from
season
the
is good
outside,
then.
We want to.
So this is a great season then.
One way or another.
Lazio,
One way or another, we want to be part of a Premier
Martin,
League.
hold on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Martin.
We want to be part of a Premier League too. So because it's really boring.
Yeah, I
So-
remember
We just
there
win
was a
too much.
moment. I remember there was a moment in late 90s, early 2000s when there was a different champion every year. I think it was Roma once with Batistuta.
Yeah.
I think it was Lazio once with a fantastic team. They had a great team. Napoli
but
before that twice. So
80
Sampdoria was
championships,
one, right?
3 teams.
Sampdoria
Yeah.
twice.
80 championships, 3 teams.
Yeah.
That's
In
crazy.
Sampdoria, I don't remember the last time they won.
1991,
Pro
they played-
Vercelli won 9, I think.
Yeah, what was the first Champions League final? It was Barcelona against Sampdoria Genoa. That was the first Champions League final, and Koeman scored a winning goal. I remember that very well.
but it's not happening anymore.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's boring.
But
It's bad.
with the Italian teams that were going to be part of the Super League, would the finance that the Super League gave them not have made SerieA even less competitive because
Yeah,
those clubs
exactly.
would have even more finances compared to the
No,
likes
I
of
think
Roma versus
no.
Napoli?
That's what I think. Napoli, Roma, Fiorentina, all those other teams, even Atalanta, they would have been able to win some championships and get more respect
How?
instead of having, because Juventus is just aiming for the Champions League, so they're just upping their budget to match the Champions League teams. Okay, now they at home, there's no way the other teams in Italy are going to match that budget. So it's like these giants just slamming around these little teams. And then the worst part is that Juventus and Inter and then AC Milan. Well, Inter and AC Milan haven't been doing so well, but once they start doing really well, to work up the motivation to play against those really little teams all the time, where that it's not going to make any difference. It's really bad.
But then how are they going to motivate themselves to play little teams like Tottenham in the Super League?
We had to. How long did it take? It took about 40 minutes.
First of all, we've lost a lot of Champions League, so we're not tooting our horns here too loudly. We've won only 2.
Serie A is
boring.
You know what?
But
There's one thing I could say here about Tottenham and Juventus. At least Tottenham has lost less Champions League finals than Juventus. And that's the only good thing you can say about it.
I think we hold the record. I'm pretty sure we hold the record.
About Serie, I remember when I was growing up in late 90s, even the early 2000s, Serie was the shit. It was the most competitive league in the world. All the best players were there.
Yep.
Yeah, you're talking about AC Milan. You're talking about AC Milan with Berlusconi.
No,
That's
but
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, but there was
Yes,
Batistuta
you are.
at Fiorentina. There was something to watch in every.
No, but
club.
there was Platini and Maradona before that in the 80s.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
80s.
So my
Yeah.
point is,
Yeah.
so I'm coming to my point.
He was too young.
My point
And
is,
Zibi Boniek.
Exactly. That's what I want to talk about.
no, but my point is, at some point, Serie needs to look into themselves. All these other Serie clubs needs to look into themselves and see where they lost their way. Where did they make mistakes? It's well documented, right? That the Inter
economy
Milan
of the
owners,
country too. There's also the economy.
exactly. So
Okay.
this is not going to help. This is not going to help if you continue to make bad financial decisions, which the Inter Milan owners made, the AC Milan owners made. This is not gonna. You're not going to be helped, right? Go
Go ahead, Martin. Sorry, Neil. You were making a great point.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to connect two things. One thing about today and one thing about the fact that I missed the previous podcast with you guys. And now I'm going to ask about that. But first, I'm going to say this. As you probably heard, Zbigniew Boniek became vice president of UEFA 5 hours ago. And people in Poland already are joking that he dismantled the Super League 2 hours into his new position.
He's capable. He's capable.
But let me ask you this, because I did speak to Boniek many times in my life. When I was in sports, I spoke to him all the time, and he always considered himself Roma fan, and he spent he won most of his trophies with Juventus, and they didn't even include him into the Hall of Fame. And he is kind of, there's some sort of.
They did, and then the fans voted him out.
Yeah, what's going on there? What's going on? Because I only know the one side of the story, but I don't know the other side of the story.
I'm a Boniek fan because that team.
Me too.
That team was the first team that my brother and I saw when we were kids. Boniek, Platini. That was the first team we actually got to see play live because it was only radio before. So I'm a fan. But Boniek, what happened was I think he went very hard after he left Juve. He went very hard and still goes very hard on Juve. And then during Calciopoli, he went all in against Juve, and that's when the fans turned against him. And the local fans in Torino, particularly like very hardcore Italian ultras and all that, they were putting stars all around the stadium and the design of the stadium. And all the stars, the biggest players of all time of Juventus had a star with their name. And the fans, and Boniek, Boniek had a star. The fans voted to remove it.
Damn.
And Juventus didn't know what to do, and they said, "Look, we're going to let the fans decide." And they ultimately voted to take it out. And I remember Boniek did an interview too, saying if Gianni Agnelli was alive, the most famous Agnelli of all time, who passed away over a decade ago or more, he would pull Andrea Agnelli's by the ears and tell him, "Well, what the hell are you doing? You got to leave Boniek's star there." But ultimately, it was the fans. And ultimately, it was because Boniek. My wife is Polish, by the way, so I have half.
Well done.
And my brother-in-law's name is Marcin. That's why I know your name.
Marcin.
So,
two good choices.
Well, we're big Polish.
You can't win them all, Marco.
Here. So we're Boniek fans. But he went hard. He goes hard against Juventus, and the fans feel betrayed by him. The Juventus fans feel betrayed by him.
But Boniek is not politically correct. He's cheeky and he's intelligent, and that the way that goes is people are going to love you, and then there's going to be people that hate you.
Yeah, but it's funny
that's simple.
It's funny that he feels association with Roma, where he only played 2 years and never won anything, and with Juve, he won UEFA Cup, he won Super Cup, he won European Cup, and he was key player in every single one of those games. They called him
the penalty shot.
The Prince of the Night. He always played the best in the most important games. In all of those competitions, he played the best in the final.
Oh, yeah. He's amazing. Amazing.
Okay. That's why I'm a fan. But he's not a Juve fan. They're saying he always goes hard against Juve. So that's what happened. And I think there might be some details of how he was transferred to Rome or how his career ended at Juve that maybe we don't know about behind the scenes, that the next time you talk to him, first of all, tell him we're fans, but second of all, ask him, say, when you got transferred to Rome, how did your blood go from black and white to, red and orange or whatever the hell they do over there?
Let me just go back on a point that Neil made. So when you look at the Premier League, and I guess this is the same with all the leagues, right? There's different types of teams in the leagues. There's the ones at the bottom who yo-yo, they go up and down. They take the parachute payment from the Premier League, use that money to outspend the teams in the lower league, and then come back up, get Premiership money, then slide back down, and then come back up. Then you have like two sets of middle teams where they're like the French league for the upper echelon Premier League teams, where they stay in the league, and some of them might slip out the league, but they'll get good players and they'll have a decent team, but they'll sell those players, and there's different types of business models in the league. So the ones that go up and down, Then there's the ones that stay in the league, but as soon as they get a good player, they sell them, and then they Borussia Dortmund within the league. And their business model is we're playing in the market where we're going to sell our players to, right? And then you have the top teams at the top of the league, like in all the leagues, like your Juventus, your Manchester United, and all the Super League teams, except Spurs, because they never won anything. But those teams kind of prop up the Premier League, the Italian League, and those are the teams that spend money. Those are the teams that lose money big when they buy a player for a lot of money, and that player doesn't come to fruition, doesn't deliver on what they expected. But they also make a lot of money. But I get why these teams wanted to form a Super League, but it's not the way to do it, because everybody's making money from all these different models on your back. But also, you couldn't make the money that you're making if they weren't as committed as you to win the league, and if their business model was different than yours. Because like the history of the Premier League has had 42 teams in there, and there's only 4 original teams from the original Premier League in there. But everybody that's come and gone, no matter how long they stayed, has added, because you need the competition from these teams, and you needed those opponents, whether they were weak or strong, to build your legacy, so that now you could say, hey, we're so famous, we're going to join a Super League. So I just think people have to realize that we all need each other. And this is just not in football. This is just in life, period. Like even the most insignificant team, or the team that spent like the least amount of time in the Premier League, has helped the biggest teams in the Premier League.
It's all an ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem.
A very delicate balance.
Yes.
Everybody's connected. I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree with that totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
but in a way, what they were also trying to say is like, look, we can't make our money back every talks about them making the money, but the budget to build that international competitive team is so big, they never make their money back in the existing model, and they have to cut back. But if they cut back, then they're not going to be competitive internationally.
So let me ask you a question.
What do they do? So they're saying this league here would have paid, given them the money to say, look, we don't have to worry about money anymore, and we'll stay in the competition. It'll help the Italian league. SerieA
how does Bayern keep winning?
By the Super League. That's the mentality, but
how does Bayern keep winning and stay within budget?
Wisely. They spend money wisely. Like, for example, and
that's the whole point. You got to spend your money wisely.
Yeah.
I have to mention Juventus, unfortunately, for 2 reasons. First of all, this season your guys having a lot of problems. You just lost to Atalanta, you're 4th, and only 2 points ahead of the 5th and 6th.
It's a disaster.
In the Champions League, if everything is like in the old system, which it won't be. So
Martin just loves to not be the only team that's struggling in their league on the podcast.
I'm saying that every podcast.
Martin, what's your team?
Tottenham.
What I'm trying to say is, remember when you spend $100 million for Higuain, right? Almost, right? That was a bad deal because he ended up releasing him for free. So I think Bayern so far is the only team in Europe, and Tottenham also spent money incorrectly.
We bought Pogba. Bought Pogba for nothing. For 900,000 euros. 900,000 euros.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and Bayern
that sold him back to Manchester United for record-breaking fee.
Don't forget, also Andrea Pirlo came to Juve for free also, and changed the course of Juventus in that first season. You know, who's coaching now, which I think is going to be a great coach eventually. I think let's not talk about him this year, but I think he'll be great in the long term.
You think are they going to fire him or are they going to keep him?
I think they're going to keep him. I think they're going to keep him, and I think if he gets to put the team that he wants together, Andrea Pirlo is an international, big headed, big city thinker. He's not local. So I think the guy, he's perfect for, to win the Champions League. You want to bring a guy that can win the Champions League? It's him. He won the World Cup. He's won the Champions League at least once, maybe twice.
I was saying to these guys previously, I read Pirlo's, I read his thesis for his UEFA Pro license that he did at Coverciano. And yeah, like his ideas on the game, his philosophy, his tactical mind is superb. I think it's just an experience thing. He needs more years in the dugout. He'll be a great manager.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a cultural thing. I don't think they're gonna. I think he helped them out this season. I'm just speaking like, you know, my own personal thoughts. And like, they wanted to get rid of Sarri, and he had signed to coach the smaller guys. They needed somebody to fill that gap last minute. And I think he kind of helped them out. So for them to fire him this year would be kind of like weird, because he'd be like, hey, I kind of helped you out right now. You know,
you always need a club legend.
He was going to coach the under 23s, wasn't he?
Yeah. Lampard and Pirlo, they both played on FC. They both kind of started quite in the same time. And
Martin, what are you talking about? We have no idea what you're talking about. Are you following the conversation?
No, I got it.
Pirlo and Lampard, they both finished their careers at NYFC, and they started their coaching career right after that. And it looks like it's not working out. But one is fired, and one might get fired. But what my original point was, what we didn't finish, is that Bayern Munich might be the only team that is actually spending money wisely year after year after year. They have a good system in place where, you know, that could change with different things. Ed Woodward wasted more money than Ed Woodward in the European football, and he's gone today. So maybe, you know, there'll be better structure with these teams in the future.
So let me ask you a question. How does Bayern do that? How does Bayern get the top players in the world to come to them without breaking the bank? How are they doing this?
Bayern, although they have the percentage, the 51% thing, Bayern are also part owned by Adidas, part owned by Allianz, part owned by Audi. And they have huge cash reserves. They're able to operate, you know, on a level playing field with the European giants. They have those huge investments, and I think there's a certain amount of protection they get in Germany as well. Like, you know, there's ways around the German model. You know, RB Leipzig have shown that. It's when you've got Red Bull in your name, even if it's abbreviated to RB, you're not a fan-owned club, even if the pretense is there that in Germany you can do that.
So it's energy drink oil money.
Yeah,
for Leipzig.
So in Germany there is a certain amount of traditionalism, and there is the 50+1 rule, but there's ways around it. And Bayern, obviously, they have the financial clout to compete with anyone.
But are they spending the money? Like their top players compared to other European top players, are they buying those players for that much? Or
they also, like Martin said, they buy wisely though. They don't often buy a flop in the transfer market.
Ian, the question is the revenue also. How people who make the money, because when you see the Champions League every year, they print the team's budgets, like the last 8. They'll show you the budgets, or they'll show you like the last 5 years of who won and compare the budgets. Usually the teams that win always have a bigger budget. But the key question is not, are they spending? They're all spending. If you're going to be in the Champions League, you have to spend. There's no question. The key question is, how do you make the revenue to cover your spends? That's the question. So Bayern might be. No, but Bayern might have a good revenue model, a revenue stream that's stronger than the rest. I don't know. But that's the problem with these teams, is that, you know, merchandise, it just doesn't add up, the merchandise, because there's so much counterfeit out there and so on. It just doesn't add up.
I think that's the
TV
job.
rights. TV rights.
I mean, that's the job of a good executive, right? That's what they should be focusing their energies on, because there are clubs across Europe who are operating within the confines of financial fair play and turning in profits year in, year out. Of course, I mean, this has been one season where COVID kind of like impacted parts of it, but that's just one season, or maybe 1.5 seasons. There's no excuse to not be doing it in a normal season. Like you have, like, I know United has like a tractor sponsor. I mean, good for them. Get a tractor sponsor. You know, get a tractor sponsor. Get your compasses sponsored. I mean, you know, make money that way, however much you want to make. But you know, the thing with salary caps. Imagine if this actually went through European Super League. Okay, so what are we operating? What assumption are we operating under? That each club is now gonna make way more. So you're going to make, as a club, way more, and you want to go tell Mbappe or Neymar or a Haaland that you are going to be under a salary cap? They're just not going to fly. They're going to,
they make it work in the NBA. LeBron James makes tons of money.
No, but then you have to do that at the
endorsements. You get product endorsements and stuff.
Yeah, but they get a lot of protection too. So from the players' union. So I don't know how you can justify it with those European labor laws that you're going to a completely capitalistic system, but then you want socialism when it comes to your players. Like I don't think
that's what they do here.
There's tons of contradictions in all the different sections of this thing. The question that I do want to ask, I'm going to ask Neil, because his team was part of the Super League, and I also want to ask the brothers, and I would ask Martin this question, and Lee, you can also answer too, is like, how do you feel about our clubs announcing that we're going to be in the Super League, not giving any information to their coaches and players, and leaving the coaches to hang out in the open and dry in front of the world without any information? And I can't ask Martin this question because his club fired their coach. So they didn't hang Mourinho out to dry. They just hung him. So Neil, how do you feel about how the position your club put Tuchel in?
I mean, this is like, I think a lot of fans use the snake terminology whenever they don't like a player going to an opposing team. But I don't like that kind of language. But this was absolute snake behavior, because you haven't given a heads up to these are the people who are representing your club. Marina Ganska, she's not the face of the club. The face of the club are the 23 players who go out on the pitch, the few, the coaching staff. You have completely, left them out to face the consequences. And you saw the Liverpool team bus yesterday. It pretty much got pelted. And
but did Liverpool do that to the Real Madrid bus?
Yeah, but there was at least a sporting reason there. They're trying to get an advantage. But my point is, like, when you do something like this, and I think
is it damaging? Do you think some of the coaches will take this shit personal?
So my thing with Tuchel is, I don't know the guy because he's just so new. So I don't really have any expectations. If this was like, if Lampard is still the manager, it'd be a different conversation. But
Neil,
with Chelsea, there is one difference, though.
Can I just say one thing? I was watching Tuchel get interviewed today, and he looked like he wanted a Super League.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm just the employee. My dad says I'm the employee. I'll do what it takes.
He was like,
he has to toe the party line. He has no credit in the bank at Chelsea, right? He can't say what Klopp says or what Guardiola says. But but at Chelsea, it's a little different because we're talking about the 50+1 rule that Germany has. None of the English clubs have it. But there's one thing that that Chelsea has, which is the Chelsea Pitch Owners Association. And in the 90s, what happened was there was a move to move Stamford away from Stamford Bridge. So a lot of fans, they got together, they bought the freehold of Stamford Bridge, and they also bought the Chelsea name. So Roman Abramovich doesn't own the name Chelsea Football Club or the name Chelsea itself. The rights of the club and the ground and the name of the club is owned by this non-profit that is fan owned. So if the Chelsea Pitch Owners Association came out with a statement that we are not for this, he really can't do anything.
So that's why Chelsea pulled out first.
I am suspecting
that's why Chelsea pulled out first.
That is because he's tried this in the past. I think the early 2010s, he tried moving the ground to this place, a few miles off, called Battersea, but he couldn't get the necessary votes from the pitch owners because the understanding is you get to use the name Chelsea as long as you play at Stamford Bridge. So yes, you can go move the club, but then you lose the brand name Chelsea.
And then you have nothing. You just bought,
then you have nothing. Yeah.
You just spent money on a brand new club that has no history.
And considering he can't even get a visa to, and considering he can't even get a visa to get into the country, good luck having Tel Aviv Blues, Jerusalem Blues. Stay in Israel, do whatever you want to do. So I have a feeling that's played a role, but obviously we'll never really know what how it went down. But it seems to me that Chelsea and Man City got onto this boat very late. They pulled the trigger very late, and they misread the room. They thought, this will fly, and the moment it became clear that it was not going to fly, they pulled back.
Martin, what do you think about the clubs leaving managers out to dry?
Well, that only shows you the whole situation, that it's very rich people that try to get richer, and they feel like they're entitled to whatever they want, including players and teams, that they own them in a way, So I think it's this mentality we pay them. It's like what Donald Sterling said on this famous tape that he was banned for as an.
Don't say the N-word. Don't say the N-word.
No. But he said, I paid them. I give them food, I give them houses, so that's this mentality, they're our property. Right. We own them. Yeah.
Lee, what about you?
Yeah, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier about how poorly it was executed. The players and the managers are the personalities that the fans cling to, as well as the identity of their club. And it just added to the sort of ill feeling, the fact that the players and the coaching staffs could all come out and speak out against it. It just formed that sort of alliance with the fans. So I think it's just whoever came up with it just either smacks of arrogance or stupidity, or a mixture of both, that they thought they could announce it and execute it in the way they did without any sort of focus groups, or even just some if you came to me the night before and said, this is how we're going to do it, I could have gone, that's going to piss a lot of people off and you're going to get some real fucking backlash. Who did they speak to? Who did they consult about this? Nobody. It just seems like this is our plan, we're going to go with it, and just hope that it's not too bad. Hope it's something we can ride out. And they've really underestimated the feeling, and just, like I say, it's just poor communication at every level, to the media, to the players, to the coaches, to the fans, to everyone. It's like I say, it's just poorly handled.
What do you think, Marco, about, because your club didn't tell Pirlo either?
First of all, the coach of the team, his job is to coach the team and make sure that the team can play games, so it's not for him to decide where the team plays, because they're boring answers here. Like Andrea Agnelli too was asked in one of the interviews, why didn't you buy this player? Why did you sell that player? Why did you do this? He said, I'm the chairman of the team. I don't buy and sell the players. There's Paratici or Marotta all the time that does that job, not me. So I don't know why you're directing that question to me. So it's like the boring answer is, they left the coaches out. We don't know that they did, first of all. The coaches, everybody might be under non-disclosures. Mm-hmm. The boring details are that, it's not as dramatic as it was the way it's been played out in the last 2 days in the news. But I agree that it was the whole communication, launch, messaging, everything was a disaster in the last 2 days. And that's why they blew it, I think. If they really wanted to do this right, they should have maybe staged it out and planned it out and
I think that's what's surprising, that they didn't suspect that this is going to be
But I don't think they left the coaches out in the cold.
They're talking, but the fact that none of these guys realized this is going to be the biggest drama ever. They were talking about it as if they just signed on a new sponsor,
They might not have thought that it would have been this much of a drama. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is a terrible miscalculation. Mauro, what do you think?
Yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, I think we're all just speculating because we have no idea what the hell happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But again, poorly. I don't know if it was poorly conceived, but it's poorly implemented. This announcement was horrible. And I'll say one thing: the teams that said that they were in and stayed in, at least it looks like they actually thought things through and they were ready, and you feel like there's leadership that knows what it's doing. The teams that were in and suddenly flipped out, to me, that's like flip-flop leadership. I don't want that guy driving while I'm in the bus. You know what I mean? This guy, he doesn't know where he's going. It's like making a tectonic announcement like that and then reversing yourself in 12 hours. What kind of a leader are you?
All right.
That means you didn't think about anything. You know what I mean? You didn't think anything through, and you were taking your fans towards something that they were horrible, that you didn't even understand. Yeah. I mean, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like, you had to reverse yourself in 12 hours. There's something wrong there. At least the teams that didn't reverse themselves, I'm imagining they thought things through.
Well, so my answer to my question is,
it's all speculation anyways.
So this is all speculation. So if we're going to speculate that the coaches didn't know about this, I'm sure some of them did. But for the ones that didn't, I think the only good thing about this Super League's announcement is the fact that they didn't communicate with their coaches and that they were blindsided and surprised by this, so that they can continue their relationship with the fans without being culpable of any of this. So I think it's actually one of the best things that happened.
Good point.
You know, because now you can be like, you can always say, I'm a fan. I didn't know anything about it. And you could just, and the fans don't want to get rid of you. So it was kind of like, I don't know if it was on purpose or by design, but they kind of protected their coaches with the lack of knowledge of this whole thing.
I like that. I like that angle. That's a nice angle. One more speculation. I want to put it past the top 12 teams that came out with this Super League idea in such an abrupt manner. If they did it, again, totally conspiracy theory here. If they did it in a way as just as a negotiation tactic to kind of like,
that's what I thought at first, but
maybe.
But after the second day of 9/11, I was like, no, they mean this shit. Like they hit more towers the next day. 9/11 is supposed to be one day. The next day, everybody quit the ECA. Everybody quit their position. Florentino Perez comes out and doubles down. I was like,
there's a level of shame or guilt or both.
They don't know the rules of terrorism, these people. You're supposed to like let what you did the first day simmer and marinate. They just.
I think. But going back to my first question.
Your question, and I think there was 7 games left in the seasons also. Right. So maybe they didn't want the coaches to lose focus, even though now it's too late. Right. I'm saying it's weird. They should have announced something like this in the off season, let the season end but I guess they wanted their staff and players and everybody to stay focused on the season.
That's what it requires. It's like summits over like 2-3 years of summits, which I'm sure they had some behind closed doors, but slowly transition, plan it properly, make sure it makes sense, make sure the fans understand that it's going to benefit everybody, how exactly, all that. But at the end of the day, it's a poorly planned, futuristic Premier League.
And
that will eventually happen.
And let's
I think
there's one person that looks terribly bad. It might be the end of that person who was a very influential person in the football in the last 30 years. And that's Florentino Perez. That's his defeat in the first place. And Real Madrid also doesn't look great in this whole thing, So, but especially Florentino Perez, that's the end of it. Pretty much that's the end of his, unless he'll be able to flip it into something else that they might switch into some other idea together with UEFA. And let's say a week from now, there's a statement that we're going to do something together, then maybe he'll save his face. But for now, he looks like the biggest loser of that all.
Lee, let me ask you a question. Have you been so Florentino Perez and the Barcelona president get Barcelona into this, but they have Susos. I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Socios.
Say what?
Socios.
Did the Socios agree with this yet?
No, that was the line of defense from Barcelona. When they backed out, they said that, we heard back from the Socios and they're not really with it. We have to withdraw, like they play that card today.
All right. So
Perez is 74 anyway. The guy should retire and let someone with a brain that isn't turned to mush.
He just did with all this happening. So I just want to get everybody's last word on this. So let's go with Marco first.
Last word for me. I think this was a fight between the big clubs and UEFA. It wasn't. I mean, the fans got pulled into it because of the way it was communicated to everybody, and everybody was blindsided. But I think there's something wrong, so that it still needs to be fixed. And I think my brother told me today that this Super League thing is inevitable. It won't. This iteration may have been stopped, but it's probably going to keep coming unless this problem is not fixed. And like I said, I'd like to see all the clubs with the same budget, and then we go toe to toe on an equal, flat playing field. That would be the best version of any league for me.
Yeah, I like that. What you got, Mauro?
That's it.
I'm gonna go ahead and just call it a non-event. And I would say this is like the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, really, because it just was done. It was really just nonsense because it wasn't properly planned, and you can't just announce something that big and then it's gone in 12 hours. It's something like there's something hollow about it, and I wish they would have actually said, we have something really substantial, and like Lee kept saying, there's a way to do things, and then there's a way not to do them poorly, which is what they did. Me personally, I liked more the news about the Marcus Rashford, helping the kids get food, like feeding these poor kids and getting Boris Johnson to to call him, getting the Queen to put him on FASTA. That's the kind of story that I like.
That was a good story.
That's a much better story than this nonsense that led to nothing.
The fans were attacking him yesterday. They said, "You fed the kids. Do something about this." And it's like the fans' priorities got out of whack pretty fast.
I agree.
Martin, what you think about this?
Like I said, the irony of it is that UEFA looks like they're protecting the interests of football, the beauty of football, and FIFA the same way. It was, I would say, it manifested the best in the performance this morning, the speech that Infantino gave, where in one sentence he said that we're defending the football, the beauty of football, the ethics of football. In the other sentence, he said that there is a progress with human rights in Qatar, and it will be the best World Cup ever. So the fact that he didn't say those two things within a span of 10 minutes kind of tells you all where we're heading, that it's just the power play, and the power play was lost by one side, won by other side, but nothing really changed. Like the conclusion will be pretty much the same. The big clubs will be still in charge. They're not going to be punished. It's not like we're not going to see, it's not like UEFA will say now, okay, because you to coup, now you're going to play in the Champions League for the next 5 years. Of course not. They're not going to do that. So the power play that one side won, the other side lost, and no really significant change for the fans or the football as a game.
Go ahead, Lee.
Not too much different to what people have said. It's a power struggle between some very wealthy, powerful clubs who've had a tough year financially, and the organisations who run the competitions. And I think maybe some good will come out of it if it opens up some more dialogue on the structure of the competitions, and things like that going forward. That's the best case scenario, is that becomes a talking point going forward, because like I said, the whole thing's been handled poorly. It's been a messy, interesting 48 hours, and at least it made football fans come together in the UK for a bit, which is always a bonus, because we spend the rest of the time hating each other.
That's good. Neil, what you got?
No, I mean, I think I kind of agree that this is not gonna go away. It might come back at some other level, but I guess the lessons learned today, don't go outside you want to have a Super League, you want to have a league that garners more money. You can do that. I mean, there's enough money now, but you can get even more money with the product that you're selling. But try not to go outside the confines of the football pyramid. Keep the principles of merit and incentive and promotion, relegation intact, and you can still do something like a Super League that takes in clubs from outside and do not dilute your domestic product. In terms of heads that are going to roll, I mean, what Perez interview yesterday was, he genuinely sounded like a 74-year-old guy. I mean, no offense to 74-year-olds, but like
he said he sounded like Biden.
Yeah, like the dude spent like an entire paragraph telling how much of a financial ditch he is in, and then in the same breath says that he wants to buy Haaland and Neymar. So I'm like, dude, what are you going with this? I think in terms of impact, FSG at Liverpool is on very thin ice. The fans were anyways getting a little pissed off at them. And I think now it's a full-blown war. So I think that's going to be a very interesting thing. Actually, while we were on recording this, the Chelsea Supporters Trust came out with a statement. And I mean, it's a lot of like, praising the fans and all of that. But one line which says the position of a member of the CFC board is now untenable, and the CST will continue to push for what is right. So they're gunning. They want a few heads to roll too. So I think there is going to be an impact. Ed Woodward resigned. Hello, Manchester United fans. Where's our thank you?
Well, let me get to my point. So my whole wrap up of this, Martin said, I think Martin, you could speak for yourself when you said nothing changes. This Super League thing was great for Manchester United, even though we embarrassed ourselves and trying to join the league and make a ton of money. We did some good. We got rid of Ed Woodward. If you follow Manchester United and you listen to their fan groups, they hate Ed Woodward. All they wanted was his demise and his departure, and the announcement of this Super League thing pushed that forward, and he's resigning at the end of 2021. Even though he's just a lackey for the what are we, the Glazers? The Glazers, and they're just going to put somebody else in place to do their bidding. Also, I like what Mario said about changing your mind in 24 hours or 48 hours makes you look weak, and our owners look weak now, and I heard they are looking to sell, and that's them owning our team and compounding our debt and making it grow while making enough money to have paid off the debt. Nobody's a big fan of that. So out of this Super League thing, we might solve our biggest problems as Man U fans. Get rid of the Glazers and
so did we.
Definitely. Say what?
So did we. We got rid of Mourinho.
You should have said that. You should have said that when you had your chance. And
maybe we'll get Pogba. Maybe we'll get Pogba back.
Maybe get Pogba back.
Pog back.
You don't have the money. You don't have the money right now because you didn't form the Super League.
Because of the Super League. The Super League like changed everything. So maybe the whole thing is unbalanced.
But yeah, so that's why I'm happy about it. I'm glad the fans exerted their power, even though money talks. And I believe, like what you guys are saying, it's either some sponsorship shit was about to fall out, or UEFA bought them back, or just something, to Chelsea support. There's a lot of factors, and you just need to pull one of those threads, and then everything will start falling apart. And I'm sure the fans' voices were heard. And as long as I've been watching football, people are like, it's a fan game, it's about the fans, and I'll be like, nah, this is just a romantic delusion. They are taking us for a ride. They're ripping us off, and they're just saying that because we spend more money when we believe it's our game. But at least today, it feels like you have some say, and that we do have a part of the game of football that's ours and not completely commercialized, even though it still is commercialized. So, guys, thank you all for coming through. It was great hearing all your points of view. It was great learning a bunch of shit. That's why I like having you guys on. There's a lot of shit that I don't know. And everybody was just willing to like say their part, and everybody learned some shit. Lee said some shit. He's a Southampton fan. His team sucks, but he still had some point.
That's nasty.
It's fantastic.
Hey, maybe a Southampton fan, but I've watched better teams than us play in other countries.
You have to.
Lee,
and I'm a UEFA qualified coach as well. I will add that.
Yeah. No, Lee, I'm just teasing.
You were hopeful of playing year, right? For 2 days, we're hopeful of playing Champions League next year or not.
Yeah, we got so close. I mean, and if you take those 6 teams out, we technically won the 2014-2015 Premier League season.
I saw that on Twitter, yeah.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. But guys, thanks for coming on. Lee, great job. Martin, great job. Neil, and La Villa brothers, man. Pleasure as always.
Thanks
and
for
thank
having
you,
us.
Aaron Brungard. Everyone, shit, I guess, I mean, if Aston Villa, we didn't talk anything about Premiership, but if Aston Villa beats Arsenal, beats Man City tomorrow.
Oh my God, you're still going with this?
Then Man United win their game in hand. We are only 5 points behind Man City to win the title. So let's just all pray for that. All right, thanks.
I like it.
All right.